friends, our guest today is the vocalist of several great bands, Zion, the GX Project, and of course, X Center. Would you please welcome with me Rex Scott?
Hey, Rex. It's great to have you.
Hello. Good to be here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Rex, at last year's Immortal Fest, that was kind of a special thing because we got both the bands X Center and Zion performed together. I also got to meet both of the bands at the meet and greet that you guys had. And I know people were really excited for X Center to see them live again and whatnot. What was your impression of the performance there at the BMI Event Center last year?
I liked our performance. I thought that the sound was lacking a little bit. When you can't have your own sound guy on the road that knows your stuff, it does present a challenge. And I thought that we had a little difficulty with the overall sound. We felt our performance was strong for the most part. There's certain things that happen in a live show that you can't control. And but all in all, I mean, we love the place. It's a beautiful venue, and
yes,
and we had a great time, and it was great to see a lot of the new and old fans that hadn't seen us for such a long time, and so it was an honor to be able to play there. It was overall a really good experience for us.
Well, and that was kind of a special night too, because both X Center and then Zion performed there. Is that kind of the first time that kind of thing has happened, where both the bands are performing at the same concert?
Yeah, because I'm kind of the interchangeable key there, in between both bands.
Yeah.
We just got a wild idea that, hey, we should do a Zion thing, because I thought some of the old fans, the really old fans that go way back, the P1s would, they would get into something like that. I thought it would be a cool thing. And so we negotiated and worked it out, and we were able to do it. And so it was a blast to be able to. That was the first time I'd been with those guys in Zion in, I don't know, 40 years or so.
Wow.
It was a long time.
Well, and I think, a lot of people were pleasantly surprised about Zion, because I really don't think they knew kind of what to expect. And I think, they were, from the fans I talked with, they were very impressed with Zion's performance also. So great job with that, Rex.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
So we're kind of go back to the beginning a little bit here, Rex. And as a child, was music a part of your life growing up?
Yeah, it was. Very musical family. My mom was a great jazz singer, and all her family on her side played instruments and things. And so there would be, when I was small, there'd be Sunday night jam sessions in the basement at my grandpa's house. My mom would be singing, the tape machine would be rolling, and they would just do, jazz and rockabilly, Elvis. And that's where I kind of got introduced to some of the live stuff. But then once I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that's what I went, man, I want to do that.
So, then when did you kind of get started with singing then exactly, Rex?
Well, I took choir in high school and junior high, and I enjoyed that. And from there, I got out of high school, and I hadn't really been in any bands, but I was playing the drums. I had a drum set, and I had been playing drums for quite a while at home, just for fun, really. I didn't really have an ambition to necessarily get in a band at that point. And once the end of high school came, and then I met, guys, and hey, are you a drummer? I heard you have drums, and then so I joined one of my first bands way back then in high school, and I was a drummer, and I did some singing from the drums too. And then that, of course, eventually blossomed later on into Zion, because when we first formed Zion in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, I was like 80, 81. I was the drummer. And so, and I did sing. We all shared singing songs. We all had different songs we sang individually. And so I did lead singing and backup singing and drumming. I did that for few years in Zion.
Who growing up or when you were just getting started or whatever, who or even now, like who are some of your musical heroes, if I could ask, be it mainstream or whatever, that really impress you, Rex?
Well, yeah, that's a hard one because there's so many great people that
Exactly.
influenced my life. I mean, when I was younger, it was John Bonham on drums and Led Zeppelin and Robert Plant on vocals. And then as there's just so many greats that you incur over the years.
Mhm.
And then I finally heard band AC/DC, and they really struck me as a unique sounding original vibe, and I really liked the power they bring. And I got to see them early on in their early days when Cheap Trick opened up for them, and I've seen them a few times, of course, since. But I saw Bon Scott twice, and I really liked that
Mhm.
style, and so that's one of my other favorite bands. There's a whole gamut, though. I like a lot of different kinds of music. I like all styles of music. I mean, Larry Norman was one of my early influences, you know, and so yeah. I mean, it's there's so many.
Yeah,
It's hard to
gotcha.
pinpoint.
Gotcha. So you were talking a little bit there about the Zion forming. Could you kind of go into more detail about how the band actually began and formed and whatnot?
Yeah, certainly. It was kind of an interesting thing. We're all in Sioux Falls, and it's quite a musical community here, and it still is now. And I was playing in a mainstream hard rock band, glitter rock type band, and Dave Moore, the lead guitarist in Zion, was playing in a southern rock called Southwind, and I was playing in a band called Rocks. And then Bruce Fisher, who was the original other rhythm guitarist, he was the program director of the big FM rock station. He's a preacher's son, and so he had went into a mainstream career, and he was the program director of this local big FM rock station here in town. And when they heard that I quit Rocks and that I had got converted to Christianity, they were kind of freaked out and surprised, and I guess would be a better word, not freaked out. But Dave and Bruce go way back to, Dave used to go to Bruce's dad's church because Bruce being a pastor's son. And so they had always talked about maybe doing something, and they were getting kind of tired of their scene as well and their careers. And so they called me up and they say, "Hey, you want to?" There was no Christian rock, at that time. We knew of nothing that was out there. And hey, we were thinking about maybe doing something different, something that was not so dark and something that uplifted the name of Jesus. We heard that you converted to Christianity, which they couldn't believe, and because Rocks was really known as kind of just this hedonistic local metal band out of control. And so yeah, we got together and we started rehearsing a little bit, ran through some original ideas we had, and everything worked out cool. And we knew another guy that was a bass player who was already a Christian, and his name was Ray Roeder. And we got him and just started writing songs, and not really having any influence other than our own mainstream musical influences and everything that we grew up with and everything we kind of liked. And we kind of just threw everything in the batch. So you hear the really early Zion stuff off of like Rock for Eternity. It's a little bit of Zeppelin, a little bit of AC/DC, a little bit of this and that, and everything in between. And because we all have kind of, our own favorite tastes. And Dave kind of had that Southern rock thing. So he's got all these great chicken licks and things that he can do. And he incorporated that. And we just came up with the thing. Then we tried to pick a name. And I remember Dave had Crystal City. was his idea. And I said, well, what about Zion? And then I drew the logo, and then we all voted on that, and then that was the beginning. And so we played all throughout this area up here a lot. We played Youth for Christ rallies, anywhere we could play. We played at outdoors at the fairgrounds during the summer fair. They had a side stage that you could play, and we got to play there. And I remember there was a country group that played before Zion, and there was two girls that were kind of the front lead singer of the band. And when we got up and played, they came up backstage and they go, "We love the Lord too," and they gave us some money. "Here, take this money."
Oh,
And it was, so it was that kind of way. And then we finally realized that there was a couple other bands out there that were doing harder type Christian music. One being Rev's band in Chicago, another Midwestern group, and then one that wasn't so hard was, of course, Servant, and then Sweet Comfort Band.
mhm.
And Sweet Comfort Band came into town, and then we opened for them as well. And it just kind of went from there. And then Bruce left his FM radio position, and he took a managerial position at a Christian bookstore as the music buyer, because then shortly thereafter, we were playing for a couple, 3-4 years. All of a sudden, more of this music started coming out, quote, Christian rock, they would call it. And so the stores in town wanted to be on the kind of the cutting edge, the cusp of it, make sure that they had somebody that kind of knew, was hip, younger, and not just, doing the Amy Grant stuff and all that. And so he was a music buyer for the biggest Christian book music store in town. And Dave has always been early on a respiratory therapist, and he's still, to this day, I mean, he's getting ready to retire now, but he's still a respiratory therapist. He did that his whole life. And then Bruce decided to take another position in Minneapolis at another bigger chain store doing the same thing, which left a vacancy of rhythm guitar in Zion. And then that's when I always had played and wrote a lot of the songs too in Zion. So then I just stepped up to rhythm guitar. And then my drum tech, Tommy Bozung, became the drummer. And that's who we had at Immortal Fest as well. And so he's, Tommy, great guy.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Rex, I absolutely, love the Zion album, Thunder from the Mountain.
Yeah.
The whole album is great, but those first three songs, Who Pulls the Strings, Kicking the Gates, Is It a Crime? To me, that I call those a triple threat, meaning it's just bam, 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 one after the other. It's just got it, it's got whatever it is, it's got it. And, you were talking about when Zion formed and everything, but I absolutely love those songs just back to back to back. How early in the band's, since Zion started, how early were those songs formed? Did you have those from the get-go?
Yeah, no, we didn't actually. And we put out a 10-song. Back then we could only do cassette at the time, and we did our own independent cassette release, and we sold, I don't know, a couple thousand of them, but mostly we performed off of the 10 songs that were on there, and then we'd add new ones into the sets as we go. It wasn't until I switched to the lead singing position and the guitar, the rhythm guitar, that we started to consider maybe, because there were some labels that had approached us, and we thought, well, and so what ended up happening is there was a little short break in the Zion career because we opened for Bloodgood in Sioux Falls. And as soon as they left town, I got a call asking, I think it was from Les, I'm not sure, asking if we knew any sound men. And I'm going, why? What's up? Because the sound guy they had with him quit on them on the tour. And they were in the middle of that Detonation tour and had no sound guy. And I go, well, I can run sound. I'll help you. And so they flew me out to Jamestown, New York for the first show since leaving the Sioux Falls area. I think maybe they did one other in between there on their way to the East Coast. And then I ran sound during that summer for the Detonation tour until they could get Paul Doty, who ended up being their more permanent guy that they used. And so when you're out on the road with Bloodgood, of course, David Zafiro and I became really good friends. And we just hit it off for some reason. And he knew about Zion, of course, because we had opened for him. And I said, we've been approached by labels. And he goes, well, let's produce a demo. Let's do 4 songs. So that's when those songs that you're talking about kind of started getting developed. Yeah. We did 4 songs for the demo, and then Dorn Reppert from Image Records got a hold of it and wanted to sign the band. And then we went into full pre-production with David Zafiro again, because he was going to be the producer. That was going to be one of his first albums he ever produced. So he was still green and learning as well. And that's when the songs got honed during that time. And so they didn't see the light of day really to the audiences live until after the recording sessions for the Thunder from the Mountain. And then, of course, from there, you get calls to play after you release things. And so Metal Fest 90, Decatur, Illinois. I mean, we played out in the East Coast, all over out there by Philly, and then Minneapolis and the area. And that's where those songs first were delivered to audiences, live. So that's
What
how
I
that
find
came
so
to be.
appealing about the Zion material is there's that raw, about said X Center, which would apply to X Center, but there's that raw AC/DC hard rock vibe. But then you guys have these lush tidal waves of background vocals that are kind of in the Mutt Lane, something like he would do vein, a la Def Leppard or something. But it's a wonderful combination. You have the rawness, and then you have the waves of just melody. And to me, that's very appealing. That's what I've always loved about Zion.
Yeah, that's something that came about through the recording process. And in the pre-production, when you're designing everything for the songs and where you want to go with the songs and the arrangements, we saw that we could go in this. We kind of, back then, we referred it to the Boston kind of thing. It's like, Jesus, there's so much stuff we could have going on here, And so there was kind of a battle in the studio while we were doing it, because do we even go further with this and make it even huger and more waves, And so we tried to do that. We wanted to keep the grit, that you mentioned that's in there. But yeah, we just love the melody stuff that we were coming up with. And so, yeah, it was just, it's a special project for sure. I mean, I wish we could have did another one with David Zafiro. I think it would have been a really good one as well too. But yeah.
Well, and that's kind of my next question, Rex. If I can ask, like what happened there? That album was really great, and I know it was well received. And so, like, if I can ask, and you can always press the pass button, but why wasn't there a second Zion record?
Well, there was a lot of things that were going on at the time, a lot of different life things. Tommy and Dave had new ladies in their lives, and they were looking at getting married. And so there was a family thing going on. And then some of the guys in the band weren't sure they wanted to have Dave do the next one, Zafiro. And I was really adamant that we really should do at least one more with Dave and then branch out from there. Well, coincidentally, what happened all while this was kind of going on, and we're trying to make decisions on what and where to do and what to do. Ex-Sinner called and said, "Hey, we fired our lead singer, and we need a singer. And you want to come sing on our next album? Because we're getting ready to go in and do another one at Pachyderm Records." And I said, "Wow." And I really liked Ex-Sinner a lot too. And so it was a very tough decision for me. And I said, and then they said, "Well, you don't have to join the band. If you want to come out and audition and it works, feels good, you can record the record." And so under those terms, I went out and I auditioned, and then it looked really good. But I could see where the workload going into their next album was going to take up major amounts of my personal time and away from Zion. And so what it came down to is I would be flying out to LA from South Dakota to audition. I'd fly home. I'd fly back out to work on songs. I'd fly home. I'd fly back out to record the album. I'd be out there for 2 months recording the record. You know, I've got a family, a wife and kids. And so there had to be some sort of decision. It kind of became a forced decision on my behalf to move to LA permanently and just pursue out there. I saw that it wasn't going to be fair to both bands to try to split the work between two. And it was hard because, you know, Zion, I had, like I said, that was like 90, 89, 90, 91, right in there when these decisions were being made. So Zion had already been together for 10 years, even though no one really knew of us that whole time because we were more of a regional act. And there wasn't all these Christian rock labels and things that all came out of everywhere afterwards. And so it was a long time I was in Zion for me. And so I had that to reflect on as well, too. It wasn't like, oh, here we are, we're this new band and we released this great album and it's going to be tough to leave it. It's like I had lived with these guys for 10 years and worked with them, you know. And so that was part of it as well. And so I felt it was time for a fresh start. And that's really kind of what happened. I basically left Zion. And so they were going to try to continue on. And they got a singer from Omaha. They were starting to write some material. But then Image Records ran into problems. They got ripped off in the industry by some major distribution deals with I'm talking a lot of product, thousands of units, never to be paid for or seen. And so they ended up, that's really what ended the whole Zion thing, really, because I think had Image stayed afloat, they would have done another record without me. Because the kid they got, he was good too. And so, yeah, that's the story.
Last Zion question before we segue into Ex-Sinner. So, you know, Rex, I was blessed to see Rex Cat, my co-host here. He shared some of the footage of you guys with me. And of course, both bands were sounding great. And it was great to see Davey and Tommy and you know, everybody in company there with Zion. Everybody's still kicking it. Is it too late to put out a new Zion album, you know?
It's not. I mean, we've discussed it for sure. And we recorded, you know, the one new song that Can't Hold Me Down. I don't know if you've heard that. It's on Spotify.
Yep.
And so, yeah, there is talk. It's just really what it comes down to now when you're our age is you've got life stuff going on.
Sure.
It's not so band career focused anymore. Like when we were younger, you know, we knew that if we put out something, we had to play it, support it, and things like that. And now the decisions are, well, you know, there's no deadlines. You know, usually you'd go in, you'd have a month to record all your tracks, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And now we found that with the element of time, you can do a lot more. You can do what you want. You can get what you want. You can listen to stuff and sit on. We found the benefit of actually sitting on material for such longer periods of time and then coming back to it and just going, wow, why'd I think that was cool? That's awful. We need to change this, you know? And so there's a lot of benefits to not being under time restraints anymore. And I know that Dave's wife's father is getting up there in years, and they just moved him in with them so that they could take care of him. And I know that that cuts into Dave's time and ability to be able to record. And so it's in the talk. It's definitely a possibility. And so you just don't know. It's just however life presents itself and what opens, what God, doors open, what doors God opens.
So with Peace Treaty, Rex, you said, I think already you spent roughly 2 months making the record, correct?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
did you, I'm assuming that you had quite a bit of involvement with lyrics and all that sort of thing with the album too, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it was musically, most of it was written, but they had no verses, lyrics, words, or melody lines to be sung. And so that was
Okay.
my responsibility to come up with everything on top of what they had built as the foundation of each song. So yeah.
And the Elefante brothers, they produced that on Pachyderm Records. I
Right.
know that. What's kind of interesting then is in 2006, Retroactive Records releases. I think originally they were wanting to just remaster the original record, but seems like there's some legal issues or problems there, and so you guys actually re-record Peace Treaty with a new song, and you call the record Fire It Up.
Mhm.
And that seems to have a little bit more punch musically than the Elefante's production.
Yeah.
Am I kind of correct in all that,
Yeah, you
assertion
are. And
of
that was
that?
the main reason, the main direction that we really wanted to do it. There was some legality, because we had legal issues with Pachyderm,
Mhm.
and we were under contract for another third record after Peace Treaty.
Okay.
And Greg Bishop, who is the leader of the head of X Center, said, no, we're not doing it, because the records were costing way too much for what we felt was the result of what we were getting out of it. And so then you go into arbitration. You don't want to do the third album. They didn't want to let us go. So we couldn't do anything as X Center. So then that's why we recorded an album as the Angry Einsteins. And then finally we did get released. But because of publishing, because the Elefantes have some publishing rights to that album and everything too, we didn't want to have to deal with them again. And so we just retracked everything. And yeah, so that's why. And
Well,
we added the punch that we thought it always should have.
so you kind of are answering my question to that I take it you kind of are more favorable to Fire It Up versus Peace Treaty with
Yeah.
just because of the punch to it. And also
Yep.
you got a new song, Fire It Up, which that is an awesome song too, by the way, Rex.
So regarding Peace Treaty, Rex, what was the issue of the original cover? Because, with the skull and the hatchets, I mean, I've seen a lot more risque covers than that. Why was that censored? What was the issue with that?
Well, it was a timing thing a little bit, because granted now, I mean, ever since that point on, like you said, there has been so much awesome graphic art that's come out that's gnarly, and I mean, that was nothing compared to some of the stuff now, for sure, like what you're saying. But then back then it really wasn't. And what really was more of the problem was the management of Pachyderm, and they were very conservative, and they thought it was too much. And it was like, come on, because you're dealing with, they're older guys, in management. It wasn't John and Dino. I'm talking other guys above them. And they're going, no. And we're going, man, this would be cool if it was embellished and airbrush. I mean, just because we basically had was just a line drawing, and we put it on our T-shirts that you've seen, I'm sure. And but they went, no, they nixed it, and then they said, and that was another reason we weren't too happy, and they said, we're just gonna use a picture of the band. Okay.
Well, and you mentioned, and we'll just talk about this project briefly, the Angry Einsteins, Rex. That was most of the guys from X Center. So that's how that happened, was you were waiting to do something else after Peace Treaty then, correct?
Yeah, we were waiting for us to be able to get our X Center name back so that we could go record, because they didn't want to let us go. But they finally did let us go.
Well, I remember getting that when it was, I believe, a CDR, and then Retroactive Records, they released it in 2003, and that thing is a very scarce thing to come by. But I do like that record. Two of my favorite songs are "Down for You" and "Prophet and the Cowboy." Those are really cool songs, Rex.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was cool because Greg gets to sing, and Greg sang a lot of that stuff, like the Prophet and the Cowboy, and a lot of the other stuff on the album. He did a lot of singing on that, and we called it the Angry Einsteins because we didn't know what to call it, but we felt like we were mad scientists in the studio because we had all this time now. We weren't under label constraints. And so that took us 2 years, I think, to record that album. We would go in whenever it was time.
And there's variety on there. I mean, you're not expecting to hear a Beach Boys song on there, but I thought that was pretty cool that you do fun, and like you said, you got time, you can just kind of branch out and do something a little bit different without the time constraints. So
it's actually one of Greg and mine's favorite albums of all the stuff we've done over the years. We really like that album a lot. And it was funny because Sony got interested, and we were like, oh boy, here we go. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that was we were kind of trying to touch on to some of the newer music of the time too, a little bit. We really liked Bob Mould and what he did with the band Sugar. He used to be in that punk band in Minneapolis called Husker Du. And he's got some great melody stuff, and so we liked a lot of that. We tried to put a little of that flavor in some of the stuff, and just a lot of our influences that we were kind of liking at the time. And yeah, I like that album a lot.
Well, and then X Center in 2009 comes out with the album World Covered in Blood. I remember there was a lot of promotion for that. I saw that everywhere in magazines and whatnot. I thought that was a good album too. It's raw sounding too. Again, your typical X Center record. How long did you work on that record, Rex?
At that point in time, Greg had been living in Australia, and so we worked via the web on it for probably like almost a year, and then Greg came over to the States to finish it. And I think the whole thing took us about a year to do or so.
Okay.
And we didn't have a big budget or anything, but we liked the songs. We thought the songs were really good. I would love to retrack a lot of that album actually with
Mhm.
some production on it. But I mean, we liked the big production of Pachyderm, but we didn't
Mhm.
like it didn't have the punch. You know, we wanted
Correct.
the guitar tones a specific way, and that was a lot of the what we call the punch. Well, World Covered Blood has got guitars galore all
Mhm.
over it, but it lacks in other areas, in the drums a little bit, and some of the overall layered production stuff. And so, yeah, I'd like to retract some of those songs, but this new one that we're doing this one's going to be something.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that, Rex. But another project or band I don't want to miss out on, and I'm not sure how many fans know about this exactly, but your GX project, you have 3 records released with that, and they are all really good. The first one is called Bite Stick, came out in 2012. Then Sinner comes out in 2014, and Raise Some Hell in 2015. How did that all get started? I know you have Glenn Thomas, the guitarist, in that project.
Yeah, Glenn called me out of the blue. I didn't know who he was, and he had written a couple of the songs that were on Bite Stick, and he had a couple ideas, and he was trying to get a hold of me because he thought it would sound good of me singing on a couple of those songs. And it was just a little side project he wanted to do, and it wasn't intended to be any album thing. It was supposed to just be a song or two. And so he finally got my number, contacted me. I didn't know who he was. I kind of feel bad because I did kind of blow him off a little bit, because you do get calls a lot by guys going,
Sure.
"Hey, can you sing on
Yeah.
this? Can you sing on that? Can you do this?" And some of the stuff's just really terrible.
Mhm.
And I go, "Well, send me, the song." And he lives in Newfoundland, Canada, out
Oh,
there on the island off the east coast of Canada.
okay.
And so he sent me the song, and I loved it. It was Love IV.
Okay.
And it wasn't Love IV at the time. I changed it to that, but man, I heard the song and I'm going, man, this is good. And so I started working on the song and I tracked it and then sent it back. And he goes, "Wow, this is really, really good." And I'm going, "Yeah, you did good." And I go, "You got any more? You got another one?" And so he goes, "Well, let me see." And he sent me another one, and then another one led to another one, and then another one led to another one. And he goes, "Hey, man, we better do an album here. What should we call it?" "Well, we got Glenn and Rex, GX project." Okay, yeah, it works for me. And
Cool.
so, yeah, and it got good reviews and everything, and we were really happy with the record. And of course, then it led to another one, and then we
Mhm.
actually have a fourth one, mostly all tracked. It's been sitting in the can for about 4 years, and again, it was more life circumstances that got in the way of us not being able to finish it in a timely manner. But we do want to pick it up and get back to it.
And are you referring, Rex, to Devil Lover, I think is what it's called?
Yeah, that was the working title, Devil Lover. Yeah, yep.
So you're saying that is possibly or hopefully coming out sometime yet?
Yeah, and the more because now we're on the new album. We're working with Glenn in a different form. He's actually he's playing engineer on the next Sinner album,
Okay.
and so we've been talking and laughing, and he said, "Yeah, man, working on this Sinner." He goes, "We got to get that last GX album done after this," and I go, "Yeah." So I think after the Sinner album's done, we're gonna go back in and finish the GX stuff.
Well, I will say that probably the song Sinner is one of my favorite GX Project songs.
Oh,
I
that's
just
cool.
love that song, Rex. And I really want people to please check out that band. It's available on iTunes. You will not be disappointed, friends, with the GX Project records. All 3 are wonderful. let's talk about the new X Center record. And you said that Glenn is engineering it, and the new album is called Going Out with a Bang. I'm assuming we can anticipate this coming out in 2024 sometime then, Rex?
Yes. Yeah, we're shooting for 2024. We don't have any date because we're in that mode of no longer being bound by label dates anymore. And so,
Right.
and again, life circumstances, well, we try to work it in as much as we can. We've been pretty diligent. We're right in the middle of it now. We're mixing another song called Hell or High Water, Come Hell or High Water. And it's sounding really good. We're about 4 songs in right now. And
Well, and the
it'll
cover,
be 9, it'll be 9 or 10.
okay, okay. And the cover artwork, you've already put that out there. That looks, spectacular. I love that, Rex.
Yeah, that's going to be, it's not the final. Those are
Okay.
mock-ups because the guy is presenting stuff. We're going, yeah, that's cool. And we're going to go, it will be similar to that, but it's not quite there yet. We're kind of saving the best for last once it's finally ready. But yeah, those covers that they're coming up with are really killer.
Yeah, that'll really make that even better. And I'm so excited for that new record, Rex. I can't wait for that to come out. Do you guys have any X Center concerts coming up at all in 2024 or not? Or
no, we don't at the time because we didn't want to really cut into as much free time as we could into the record. We want to get the record done and not have to delay it any longer than it is already because of our, things happen. I mean, Glenn had some personal stuff come up in his life with his wife, health stuff, and when you go to the hospital and you got to go see doctors, and I mean, everything stops. You're not doing anything for weeks at a time sometimes because life happens. And so, but yeah, we're looking for 2024 and hopefully sooner than later. But we've had some calls to play, but we haven't been able to really commit.
Sure. Well, it's cool that you're focusing more on the records then, and so I know those are both going to be spectacular. How can people connect with you online, Rex, with like either the band X Center or Zion or yourself? What's the best way that people can connect with you guys?
I would say mostly, I know not everybody's on Facebook, but the Facebook pages are pretty easy. I mean, they're pretty monitored. And so, we can respond fairly quickly on those. The X Center website, which is xcenter.org, we had all kinds of problems with the server. And so we had to switch servers, and right now it's under reconstruction. And so, but once that's done here, which should be pretty quick, xcenter.org would be another way too.
Okay. Wonderful. Kent, do you have any other questions for Rex before we kind of wind down here?
The only question I'd like to ask Rex is, with the new album Going Out with a Bang, what can fans expect from it musically? Just more of the same good stuff, or are there any surprises coming up that you can maybe give us a hint at?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because a lot of people, recognize the difference in production between Peace Treaty or / Fire It Up and World Covered in Blood. And a lot of people have said, man, where's that big production? We want that big production like in Peace Treaty. And so what you're going to hear is more of that. It's going to be a lot more production. And
kind of bombastic in scope, like that big bomb going off in the background.
Yeah, so that was my audio there. I was going to blast you a little bit of it, and but yeah, it's going to be big like that, and so that's what we're going for, that direction. Awesome. It's going to be highly produced, and but with that grit edge that you mentioned, that we're kind of known for too. So yeah.
But you guys are producing the record yourselves, though, right, Rex? Are
Yeah.
you producing it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
Glenn is mixing it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wonderful. So Rex, what advice or words of wisdom, or what would you like to say to all your friends and fans out there? If you could, make a comment about what you would like to say to all of your people.
Well, I would just like to say thanks to everybody for all the support over all the years, and it never ceases to amaze us. Things seem to go in cycles, and all of a sudden you start getting calls out of nowhere, and then things start picking up, and like you never would really expect, and then you find out that it's these longevity of fans that have never forgotten you, and it's quite humbling. And so I would just like to say thank you to all the faithful out there, in the faith, and those that aren't in the faith that are still fans of the band, that we want them to know that we love them and we really do appreciate them no matter what. And just look forward to next year, this year, 2024.
Well, and Rex, me and Kent, we say this a lot, and I'm not sure that the bands and artists realize this, but back in the day, I would have been like an 18-year-old or something like that when the Zion record came out, and you guys were like our youth pastors actually, because sometimes people in the churches didn't understand the music exactly, but the message was there. So we just want to thank you too personally for just being there and being a positive influence to us.
Thank you. Yeah, we saw a niche where there was a need, and we tried to meet it. And little did we know it'd bloom into this gigantic genre of bands and labels and groups, and yeah, it's just amazing to see it.
I can still remember, Rex, back in the day in 1989. That would have put me at 18. Maybe it was before 89. I don't know, somewhere in the late 80s. I can still remember seeing an ad in the back of, I think it was actually CCM magazine, because I wasn't blessed at that time to have Heaven's Metal. But in the back of CCM, I still remember seeing an ad for the original Zion, release. I think Thunder from the Mount, and I didn't have it at that time, but I remember oohing and ahhing over that dragon coming down, and thinking, oh man, one day I got to have that.
Yeah, it's cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
One thing I would like to go ahead, Rex.
I just said it's been a long road.
Yeah. One thing I would like to ask on behalf of, viewers who might have an interest before we close it out. You mentioned, back in the day, you were talking about how, your peers were kind of surprised that you, as you say, converted to Christianity. I would like to ask maybe what transpired that your journey with Christ began back in the day?
It was really the revelation of the empty lifestyle. You get in a band or bands, and you want to try to make a career out of professionally, and all the trappings and everything that come with it, and you realize how empty all that stuff really is. And so things you thought would be fulfilling, and wow, I've done this, I've accomplished this. I mean, we opened for Bachman Turner Overdrive, in front of thousands of people, with each achievement, it was like, this is it, this is all there is. And so I knew there was something more. And my family, my mom and her grandma, they would always try to preach to me, and when I was younger, and my grandma drug me to a Billy Graham crusade one time too. And so I've always had that kind of in the back of my mind and my heart. And yeah, so once you realize the emptiness of what the world has pretty much out there, it caused me to start looking again, reassessing everything.
And the Lord said, after that Bachman Turner Overdrive gig that y'all did, he looked at you and he said, Rex, you ain't seen nothing yet.
And boy, is that the truth. Oh my.
Well, Rex, we always close out all of our episodes with something we call message from home. And as Kent says, we just want to keep the main thing the main thing. So normally I close out with a passage of scripture. And I was thinking about the band's name, X Center. And this verse of scripture kind of came to mind. And it's from Romans chapter 6, verse 6. And Paul is writing here, and he says, "For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that the body ruled by sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin." Um, and I just think the scripture just says that perfectly and kind of goes along with the band's name, X Sinner, and that we're
Amen.
saved by grace now. And so I just want to thank you again, Rex, for taking the time to talk with us, and appreciate everything you and Zion and all your other bands have done for the Lord. And we wish you blessings for this year, for the new albums coming out, and just thank you so much, Rex.
Oh, thank you, both of you guys. Thanks, Kent. Love to meet you. You know, I've got to meet half of you in person, and but yeah, I'd love to meet and talk some more. That'd be great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It was so wonderful, Rex, by the way, at that meet and greet, because you were a little bit late to it. So I actually got to spend some extra time with the rest of the band there and
Oh,
talking with
cool.
them. And yeah, that was so wonderful because I've never been to an X Center concert until, Immortal Fest. And so it was just nice, like speaking with Greg and all those other guys. And so it was, I think I was the first one in line. So I think I got a little bit additional time. So I really appreciated that. And everyone was just so nice. And it was so wonderful to meet those guys in person, Rex.
Oh, that's cool. I'll pass that on for sure. Thank you.
Now,
Thank you. Thank you.
What
Yes, Ken.
Rex, my co-host, isn't telling you, Rex, is that he had called me up and he was taking your name in vain because you were late.
No.
He was saying
no.
He was saying all kinds of things. Where's the lead singer?
You know
I was
where I
actually-
was? You know where I was? I was out at the soundboard. I was taking the sound guy to task at that time. And so I knew I had to be back there, but I had to make sure things were right out front and we were going to do certain things. And so, yeah, that's where I was.
Well, I was
Well,
just
Yeah,
teasing
the lead
Rex.
singer always is late, all the time.
Yeah. I'm
No,
just
well,
giving
it
my
was-
co-host a hard time. He didn't do that.
And it
Oh, no,
was
that's
great.
fine.
It was great. And I was actually, to be quite honest, Rex, I was kind of nervous to meet you. And I think I said something about, that my name was Rex too. And so like, I think that kind of helped break the ice for me just to kind of relax a little bit because we got it, Rex Carroll of White Cross saying, us Rexes, we got to stick together,
That's right.
So,
That's right.
So, well, hey, I appreciate your time. And Rex, if you could just hang on with us one more second after we close here,
right.
we'll let you go. But thanks everybody, and have a good 2024.